My major is information systems.
Okay, great. How long have you been programming?
I have been programming for about 3 years now. Just about.
And what programming languages are you experienced with?
Mainly Java and C#, but I have some little experience in like JavaScript and Ruby and a whole bunch of other random little things that I've used once or twice, but yeah.
What's your favorite?
I think my favorite is C#.
Because
I don't know, it's just really easy to work with. And it's a Microsoft language, and they have created kind of a whole little world unto itself that you can kind of do a lot with, so yeah.
Okay. So do you know what an open source software project is?
I do.
Have you ever contributed to one?
I have not. I would like to, though. That would be kind of
Yeah,
cool.
what's stopping you?
I think I don't know if I'm a good enough programmer to actually contribute to one. So like, I don't know, I feel like the people that are contributing to open source kind of know better than me what is going on, and so I just don't feel prepared.
So one of our ideas is kind of to set up a club or a class maybe, to kind of help people to get more involved in like that kind of thing. So basically, that sounded like something that you might be interested in, right? Because you could become more proficient.
Yeah, like...
Is that something that sounds appealing?
Yeah, like, I think if I was involved, I think a lot of times I've been interested in a club, but then haven't got involved just because either don't think about it or I get busy or something. So if it was a club, it would have to be something like that. If they had my email and would email me like every week or every month when they met, like to kind of get me in, keep me interested and keep me involved.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I mean that would be an interesting, especially like you said, like not only is it a club that something that's helping people, but also like helping me improve my skills and understand like how I can be helpful. So
yeah. So if you were to do something like that, would it help you with your future and your plans?
yeah, definitely.
So basically, the only other thing that we wanted to talk about was, how do you think, do you have any thoughts on how a club or a class should be set up?
For you to be motivated to join it,
yeah.
like what would you want to see in a club or in a class that would make it so that, like, I want to, even though I'm a busy student, I would want to come and join and do this?
Well, for me, like, I think if they had specific projects that they, like, if it was just a club or a class for, that said, oh, we're going to help you learn how to be humanitarian and do this stuff, then, like, that's kind of interesting, but at the same time, you know, maybe I don't know what is going to happen. I'm kind of hesitant. But if you'd say, you know, these are the kind of nonprofit organizations that we're working for. This company's doing this thing, and it kind of can give me an idea of what is happening. I think that would be really informative and help me like understand and motivate me to participate more.
Like, so you want like specifics as far as in the advertising, like we're working on a project with this company,
right,
and you could come and be a part of that.
Right, exactly.
So you feel like it'd be more motivating if it was something that was more integrated into your school schedule and you felt like it was a part of it.
Because the problem with the club, like I'm in the security club and I love security. I love programming. I'd want to do this to build up, well, not only my programming skills, but to help out in programming, because I think that'd be cool to be on the open source project to help out third world. I'm on the open source project right now, but I think it's tough with the security club they meet, on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I haven't even been in the last 6 weeks because I feel I love it, but I feel like there's nothing to really keep me there.
Sure.
I feel like I'd get into that rut if it was a club. You'd have the diehards that would go. You'd have a lot of people that were interested, but then they'd fall out because it'd be tough to keep a weekly schedule for everybody. If they had a class that it was allocated from 9 to 10:30, or even if you have it later at night, 5 to 7, Monday, Wednesday, or something.
Adam and Joel, do you feel like if there was a class like that, that that would be something you'd be interested in taking?
Yeah, I'd sign up for it. I think it sounds interesting. I'd like to know more about the project. Sorry, I'm talking to you.
No, dude. Take it away, man.
I'd like to know a lot about the projects, like what you're working on, if
it was a class, then what we'd want to do is have like a project that we work with them like a couple months in advance before the semester starts, and we'd say, give us a project that we can put a bunch of students on, and hopefully it'll be like a language like a Java language because that's taught a lot, or some C-based language, but so you'd come into the class knowing what you signed up for.
Well, I think that's really important. You've got to have this very organized and great direction. So I'm not sure that it would work to have like training people on languages and then expecting them to go in and do something later. I think that might be a little too broad scope. I think maybe if you had certain projects with certain languages lined up and then you recruited people to fill those, you'd have a lot more success. But above all, you've got to have some interesting projects that people can come in and contribute on.
Sure.
Rather than just kind of open-ended. I don't think it would work that well.
So like, say right now, we'd need to like advertise or have Assumption send an email out saying like in the fall there's going to be a class that's working on this project with this language.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you have any ideas on like if you wanted to do that but you didn't have that skill yet, but you had like a summer to work on it? Like, is it like, a summer to prepare, would that help? Like,
yeah, it's a big commitment learning a language, but if I felt like I had enough programming and skills in general to be able to pick that up, and it was something I really wanted to do, then yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've got a pretty big programming pool at BYU. If you look at the CS, the IS departments, as long as it's a language that a lot of people study, you've got a decent pool there.
And maybe if you play more towards, if you want to get in a lot of people, you play into, here's an opportunity for you to continue programming, because in the information systems, we have the core where we program for the 2 semesters, and then you can take VBA, which is fine, but I know VBA, I don't care to take that class because I already know it. So there's not really any other programming options. I could take some CS classes, but they won't count towards, I guess I could get them to count towards, but it'd be more difficult to get them to count towards graduation.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was there and you said, here's even if you didn't say here's a specific project, well, that would be helpful. But if you said here is an opportunity for you to contribute in programming, you'll be building your skills, and also contributing to here. We'll meet Monday, Wednesday from 5 to 7, and code team or pair code, whatever.
How long have each of you been programming? I'm gonna get back to that.
Almost 3 years.
I did a little Visual Basics maybe 8 years ago, but programming seriously has just been 2 years. So.
If we're including VBA, then it'd probably be closer to about 3.5.
Okay.
I VBA'd for about half a year straight.
And then what programming languages are you each experienced with?
VBA, Perl scripting. Scripting count? Okay, Perl. C#, Java, and then I've had experience with PHP. That's about it.
Mostly just Java. It's the only one I'm proficient in. I know a little HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but that's my main.
So I guess that's your favorite. What's your favorite?
What's my favorite?
Mm-hmm.
I like C#. I enjoy that a lot just because there's so much you can do with it, and there is a ton of support, and it's so related to Java. It was easy to switch into, but there's a lot that Microsoft builds into C#. So I enjoy that one probably the most. I'm the best at PBA, but
Right.
enjoy C# the best.
Oh, that's interesting. So we talked about the humanitarian free and open source software. I guess we explained that. Did you know about it before?
Mm-mm.
I've heard of it, no.
Fair enough. Have you ever volunteered programming skills for a nonprofit?
I volunteered skills, but I wasn't picked for programming. I was picked for documentation. Is this the open source?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was picked for doing documentation instead of programming. But
Okay.
I'll probably have to do help out with an open source later for one of my classes, but it would probably just be more documentation than programming. I don't foresee programming for an open source project.
But if you were to, you wouldn't want to do, like, documentation doesn't motivate you very much, right? Like
if that's what you need, I mean, because I still feel like I'm contributing on this project that I'm on right now, doing Nmap, I'm on Nmap, doing documentation for them, and it's cool because it's a well-known thing. And so even though I'm just writing out, here's a how-to guide, I'm putting this up on, whatever flavor of Linux you want.
That's still educational for you.
Yeah, I still learn a lot from it just because, I don't mess too much with these other flavors of Linux.
Yeah, well, I see where you're coming with that question, Andy, because I think being involved in the creation process is more rewarding.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're involved in a project you care about, even if it is documentation, you'll still get a lot of reward out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's still a motivator, even with something like documentation.
Cool.
Do you have experience working with a software development team?
Yes.
What is it?
It's with Garrett. He's on the UI. I'm on the back-end development team for broadcasting, BYU Broadcasting.
Okay, how long have you been doing that?
It's only been like 6 months, half a year or so, yeah.
Okay.
And I have not. I'm more networking and security, so not much programming.
So back to the volunteering thing. If you were to volunteer, how much time would you be willing to put into that?
Is this like for the club or the class? If it was the class, and it was 2 hours every other day, that would be fine with me. I'd totally be willing to put in 8 to 10 hours.
Because you probably have to do some outside of class stuff too.
Yeah, and I'd be totally fine with that.
Would you do more if you got credit for it?
Yeah,
I feel like
and
that's
if I liked it, if I liked it, shoot, I'd drop a lot of stuff to do it. I mean, because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy learning it. And, yeah. But probably say about 10 to 15. There's a credit class.
I'd say probably 5 to 10 during the semesters, especially like right now I'm pretty busy and it'd be tough to find time. During spring and summer, I'd be in for 10 to 20 maybe.
Yeah, spring and summer.
If it's as long as it's a project I care about, I'd be willing to invest some heavy time into it.
What would be the most motivating factor, like the experience and resume building, or having something like a tangible product that you could say like I helped on that, or like the charitable aspect of it?
Probably a combination of gaining experience from it. So if we were making some web portal for, I don't know, some tracking system for this SMS, and if I was put on to port that to a website and put that into there, that would motivate me a lot to put a lot of time into it because that interests me doing front end stuff. And so gaining experience from that would be probably my biggest motivator.
For me, by far, it's the nature of the project. If it's something like what you were talking about with the text messages where they can get help in natural disasters, get help from repressive regimes, something like that, and it's a cause I believe in, that's by far my biggest motivator. I'd be willing to put a lot of time into that. If it's just for experience, that's still probably worth my time, depending on the quality of the project, and I might be willing to still put in 5 to 10 hours, but it's not nearly as big as being involved in something that I feel is important.
Do you think I'm a jerk because I didn't?
Dude, I think you're a good man, Joel.
Okay, good.
No, wait, that's actually my next question. Like, what kind of projects would be most interesting and most motivating?
Name some of the examples.
This is like what we talked about before with the non-profits or the local government or like school things.
School things would be interesting. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
To help out if there's a way to do some tracking thing to help kids get into school and to track their progress, or some way to be able to change the way they learn, or build an app or a program to help them learn better. That would be interesting. I like security, so I think it would also be cool to put together some networking interface for them or something. Maybe we can put like a coded tour relay for the kids in China so they can have freedom of speech or something. That would be awesome.
That'd be super cool.
What about like local government software? Is that exciting or boring?
Local government software being like folks that are here in Provo, or what do you?
Yeah, like a Provo City project that, wouldn't be something that you get paid, like something that's normally paid for, but just like something to make the city better. Like,
Shoot, I wouldn't care to get paid for it, yeah.
But would that be motivating to like say, I'm working on like this thing right here that's going to be working here in Provo, or like some other city project? It doesn't have to be in Provo, but...
It'd hold probably just as much weight if it was here in Provo compared to if it was in Ghana or somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with Joel. I think it's not so much the location of the project or even its scope, it's the need that it addresses. So in that sense, I think a foreign country would carry more weight if we're talking like the text messaging idea again. I think that's very important, whereas something locally probably I'm not going to think is as important, or maybe not something that I would necessarily have to do. Maybe it's something the local government could pay for. But if it is local, if it's for a school or something, and I can see that it addresses a need that's probably not going to be addressed otherwise, then sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on how important I view the project.
I think that's a lot of questions, unless you guys have something.
That's pretty good.
Do you have like projects in mind that you've talked with folks for, or like you've mentioned this SMS one, but
yeah, like so they've got partners they already work with that are vetted, that are doing really important things, and so that's the organization that we work with. That's who they work with. Are important software, open source software projects that they've already picked and kind of groomed and things.
Okay.
But they want to know what would motivate students the most.
Okay.
Well, open source is becoming very important. It's going to be a big player in the next few decades. So if you can get in on the ground level here and come up with some important ideas, there's some excellent growth potential.
Would that be motivating? That's one thing we didn't talk about. Like if in our class that we set up, that we get a professor to give some lectures on the nature of open source and kind of the culture and how you get involved. Would that make you more interested in taking the class if there was that element to it?
I think that's a big selling point. That'd be a great idea.
What about you, Joel?
I don't know, I'm trying to think of how you would present this in a way to compel people to join it. Like, yeah, that might help me. If I was sitting in class and somebody came in and Dr. Anderson talked about, here's open source and here's why it's so amazing and here's how you can be involved. Yeah, that might hold weight, but I don't know. I think the biggest thing that would encourage me is, if you came in at the end of the junior core, in Albrecht's class, and they're like, so to continue your programming skills, we have this class set up to continue to help you develop. In addition, you'll be helping out these folks. So playing more of a growth potential would be more encouraging for me. But that's just me.
No, that's the kind of information we want to know from like student perspective.
No,
Various people.
I agree with what Joel just said. I think it depends on the approach. Like if we bring in somebody like Dr. Anderson to just talk about this generalities of it, I don't think that's a big selling point. But if you can get somebody that's had open source experience, that's been on the inside and can give details
story.
on actually working
Yeah.
within these projects. I think that would be really interesting.
Kind of maybe create like a little mini series of lectures, and it might be like a web series, but from somebody not at this school, but something that we get content that we could have and show in the class.
Yeah.
And that would be really informational and help you feel like you're stepping into the open source world.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that intensive, just one element of the course I think would be excellent. Just keep it short, 3-4 hours, somewhere in there.
Cool.